Joshua chapter 5 verse 13. Now when Joshua was near Jericho, he looked up and saw a man standing in front of him with a drawn sword in his hands. Joshua went up to him and asked, "Are you for us or for our enemies?" "Neither," he replied, "but as commander of the army of the Lord, I have now come." Then Joshua fell face down to the ground in reverence and asked him, "What message does my Lord have for his servant?" The commander of the Lord's army replied, "Take off your sandals, for the place where you are standing is holy." And Joshua did so. Now the gates of Jericho were securely barred because of the Israelites. No one went out and no one came in. Then the Lord said to Joshua, "See, I have delivered Jericho into your hands along with its king and its fighting men. March around the city once with all the armed men. Do this for 6 days. Have 7 priests carry trumpets of ram's horns in front of the ark. On the 7th day, march around the city 7 times with the priests blowing the trumpets. When you hear them sound a long blast of the trumpets, have the whole army give a loud shout. Then the wall of the city will collapse and the army will go up, everyone straight in." So Joshua, son of Nun, called the priests and said to them, "Take up the ark of the covenant of the Lord and have 7 priests carry trumpets in front of it." And he ordered the army, "Advance, march around the city with an armed guard going ahead of the ark of the Lord." On the 7th day, they got up at daybreak and marched around the city 7 times in the same manner, except that on that day, they circled the city 7 times. The 7th time around, when the priests sounded the trumpet blast, Joshua commanded the army, "Shout, for the Lord has given you the city." When the trumpets sounded, the army shouted, and at the sound of the trumpet, when the men gave a loud shout, the wall collapsed. So everyone charged straight in, and they took the city.
We belong together, no debate here. Oh baby, why you here? Oh, wherever you go, go, go. Never ever go solo. Even if tomorrow come, never follow you, go. Why you? You Julius and Romeo. I go follow you, go Mexico. Even Jericho, I no go let you go. Oh, oh.
What happened to the 7 trumpets blown by 7 priests in tradition? Could it be that this divine ordinance, which was given in times of war, has now completely vanished from the archives of human history? The early Spanish churches have given us more illustrations of the 7 trumpets from the book of Revelation than any other people. However, who influenced these illustrations in Spain? Can we find them today? Where are they now? We will address these questions by reading from the book of Joseph S. Kaminsky, Akan Ntahera Trumpets in Ghana, Culture, Tradition, and Sound Barrage, starting from his comparative analysis of medieval Spanish iconography.
Watu nijua mbagula mumoda. Ngia
a quick acknowledgement from the writer which I thought was worth noting. This research wouldn't have been possible without the permission of the Asante the Otumfuo Osei Tututu, the 16th king of Asante and custodian of Asante spiritual and material culture. I thank not only the Otumfuo, a title which means all-powerful one, and which always refers to the Asante, but the entire Oyoko clan for having maintained and defended a rich cultural history throughout the past several centuries, preserving the cult ivory trumpet tradition that was made available for my research in the 21st century. Never before had an Asante allowed an outsider to study this music directly. Indeed, aspects of the tradition had been kept secret, regarded as sacred, through the reign of Opokuwari II, the 15th Asante. The Seven Angels of the Apocalypse. By comparing pre-colonial African to medieval Spanish iconographies of ivory trumpets, it is possible to form a conclusion about ancient connections. Numerous medieval European illustrations of ivory trumpet blowing angels appear in editions of the commentary on the Apocalypse of St. John written by the 8th century Spanish monk Beatus de Liébana. Beatus' work was influenced by an earlier but lost commentary by Tychonius of Carthage dating from 380-85 of our Common Era. The set of illustrations of the Seven Angels of the Apocalypse made by the Spanish monk Maius in the 10th century, contemporary to ancient Ghana, indicate ivory trumpets. In or around 940, Maius was commissioned by the Cathedral of San Miguel de Escalada to reproduce a copy of the commentary on the Apocalypse of St. John by Beatus de Liébana, who wrote the first edition in 776. In the Escalada edition, Maius depicts the angels holding and blowing what appear to be elephant tusks. See figure 2.4 to the side. So basically, what he is saying is we can draw a historical and cultural connection between medieval Spain and pre-colonial Africa, in particular with the Akan tribe of West Africa, among whom are found the Ashanti people. In particular, when comparing the ivory horn blowing tradition, which appears to be identical on many levels. Although it is not certain that Beatus' lost original contained ivory trumpets illustrations, we presume that it did because Beatus' authority, John Williams, believes that Maius' copy followed Beatus' format exactly. Williams also connects Beatus' commentary to the earlier North African commentary on the Apocalypse by the Carthaginian Tychonius, who wrote for the Donatist Church in North Africa in or around 380. Tychonius' commentary has not survived either, but Williams concludes that it was the influence behind Beatus and thus Maius' illustrations. Following this logic, Tychonius' illustrations would point to ivory trumpet performance in Carthage in the 4th century. Interestingly, ensembles of 7 are common to both the apocalyptic and the Ashanti tradition. Indeed, traditionally, an Ashanti trumpet group is composed of 7 trumpets, the number 7 considered magical in Asante, just as it was in the ancient world. Footnote number 32. 7 Asante or Akan trumpets, locally called Mensan 7 horns, are comparable to the 7 Hathors of the Eye of Ra, the 7 shofarots of the Battle of Jericho, and the 7 angels of the Apocalypse of St. John the Divine. And I believe there is to be an unequal comparison because the 7 Hathors of the Eye of Ra have nothing to do with trumpets and they have nothing to do with 7 praise-blowing horns. However, the 7 shofarots at the Battle of Jericho and the 7 angels of the Apocalypse of St. John the Divine apply. Furthermore, the Ntahera is one of 7 royal ivory trumpets and symbols of the Asante Hini, which means the king of Ashantis. Comparing the Ntahera to the 7 angels, we see that the Asante use ensembles of 7 spiritually to destroy their enemies, just as the 7 angels destroy evil to clear the way for the reign of the Lord. Let's hear this directly from historian and teacher Katonka from the Ashanti Kingdom.
Teacher Katonka na masaishi ane the yeno na ochi twa mu no na yesan to aso na enedie efa Asante sam no na yesan ba so na we die asintre da so ene se Asante man amamuo ekwan na efa so ehihye ye man tete no ansa na sabia nyado obroni kura eba ma obroni besua no ma pi firi mu eno ho asam na yede bremo ne wie no ansa na yaba se Asante man no yesan wo se wadu mpani mfie so aye wo kwan efa so e kire se de esi kwakon abrofo no eyusu anase omo de rifle na na ekon na Asante for de no nya rifle enso na abrofo no hu kwan omfa so a e bat se de rifle eba se de omo ye ne se omo kom edo ko military academy no a e kire wo se de esi kon enti no enipa nso eto santene ewa akono na enso ato santene di omachi na enso biem ato santene di omachi na je sa koya aduonu baako sa aduonu baako yi na omu hu ekun no anu bie na se ye ko a omu edi kanso no eto omu tuo wi a omu sori gina ho tete nuachi ene de omu siesie eto omu tu wi ya no masa da fom akọ ekire akọpuma omutuo no na omo etoso mienu no enso no omo so ahure agina baabi ana omutuo kane no omo bawie no na werum so aba ndi etuo tuo no enyo etuo ntwa eno obroni ba fra no volley omo tutuo no ana wada fom no okopuma no tuo na enso no edi akire nso aba no so abeto saa enti ekoso saa enyina sei kwanya no mfa so a omo eto omo ne abrofo no timede etintam no na ni nyina achi no se fekuo no nso a enyimfo no enkyerɛkyerɛ wɔ hɔ sɛ wɔn nso teteɛ no ɛyɛ sɛ ɔman yi ni biara ne ɔbrɛmpɔn biara wɔ fekuo dubaako ya sɛbea nyaado wode akyeame fekuo ka ho a ɛyɛ fekuo dubiɛ
Let's continue the reading where we left off. Furthermore, the shapes of the angels' trumpets are elephant tusk-like and are discolored, just as ascended trumpets often are from the libations poured on them to propitiate the spirits contained in the instruments. So basically, in figure 2.4, we can see that there is an intended artistic details of trumpet discoloration. However, in real life, the Akan trumpets are also discolored, but that is from the libations being poured on them. In contrast, medieval odifants were not known to have been blown in ensembles of seven, nor were they blackened from discoloring or conceived of as a source of sound barrage. Evidence indicates they were blown singularly in the 3rd century before the introduction of church bells. Figure 2.5 shows an odifant attributed to Saint Blaise to call people to Mass. This type of sounding might be reflected in the single proclaiming trumpet seen in figure 2.6. The trumpets depicted in Mayus illustrations are hand-blown, as were the medieval odifants. The odifant in this anonymous illustration from the 12th century Cardennia edition, see figure 2.6, is also hand-blown. It is reasonable, however, to believe that in practical contexts, these blowing positions are incorrect. The illustrators may never have seen an ivory trumpet blown and instead followed artistic conventions. Aesthetic considerations appear to have influenced some of the illustrations of Asante horns made by Bowdish. While some of Bowdish trumpet blowers are holding their tusk in hand-blown positions, fieldwork and research indicate they were always side-blown. The trumpets in the Mayus and Cardennia illustrations, however, are tusks. The Cardennia angel is holding the light tusk in one hand, as Baines described, like Bowdish's Asante trumpet blower in figure 2.7. Furthermore, the Cardennia's angel's trumpet is chipped on the end, just like some Asante tusks, for example that shown in figure 2.8.
But now can see. It was great.
St. John the Divine's reference to 7 trumpets of the Apocalypse is in essence a description of the angels creating sound barrages. Furthermore, the trumpet shapes shown in commentary illustrations appear to be elephant tusks and resemble the Asante trumpets in several ways. These and other indicators suggest it is plausible to view the Ntahera as surviving descendants of an African tradition at least 2,000 years old. In conclusion, what he is saying is that while the early Spanish church representations of the 7 trumpets of the biblical book of Revelation are an exact replica, that is to say, an exact copy of the Akan 7 trumpets, called Ntahera, all the way to the details of its discoloration caused by libation being poured on it, and the chip at the end of the horns. The difference is that there is no tradition or culture in Spain churches where these 7 horns are blown together, as they were oftentimes singularly blown by a monk. So while this is cartoon life in Spain, the fact of the matter is that they're forced to recognize that the people who influenced their conception of the 7 trumpets are found today not on the shores of Spain, where they could have been located as early as the 4th century when Tychonius first described their ivory horns. But these people are now found on the west coast of the African continent, and in this instance, more specifically, among the Akan people who maintains the ordinance of the 7 trumpets blown by set apart 7 initiated men. As we are dealing with the 7 horns, each representing the 7 spirits of the Most High God in Akan folklore, I see fit to salute you in the manner of John the Revelator. Grace and peace to you from him who is and who was and who is to come, and from the 7 spirits before his throne, and from Jesus Christ, who is the faithful witness, the firstborn from the dead, and the ruler of the kings of the earth. For him who loves us and has freed us from our sins by his blood, and has made us to be a kingdom and priests to serve his God and Father, to him be glory and power forever and ever. Amen.